Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review, we're going to be taking a look at the Nintendo eShop release of Doom Eternal, the Switch port, the port that a lot of Nintendo fans, or those who own a Nintendo Switch, but I won't say all the Switch owners, but pretty much a good amount of Switch owners have been waiting for a while. It's worth pointing out that Doom Eternal is also available on the PS4, Xbox One, PC, Steam, and Google Stadia, but we'll be focusing on the Switch version. And if you're interested in any gameplay footage, I'll have a link down in the description down below, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this video though. In 2017, during one of Nintendo's Directs, one of the games that were announced, actually three games that were announced from Bethesda. The first one was Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which really wasn't surprising considering that was shown during Nintendo's first official reveal of the Nintendo Switch back in 2016. But the one that kind of surprised a lot of people was basically Doom. Not Doom 3, Doom 2016 though, was going to be ported over to the Nintendo Switch along with Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. This surprised a lot of people because no one thought a game like that would come to the Nintendo Switch. A game that was basically graphically demanding, and I don't know what Panic Button did, the ones that handled the Switch port though, but they managed to do what many thought would be impossible. Yes, it's obviously clear that compromises were made to make that game basically come to the Nintendo Switch, basically running at 30 frames per second, but at 720p when docked and 540p when undocked though. But the fact that we had a portable version of Doom 2016 on Nintendo Switch was amazing though, and this opened the door to a lot of people thinking, could other games make their way over to the Nintendo Switch? And like I said, we've seen games like Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus come over, Warframe come over to the Nintendo Switch, even Witcher 3 Wild Hunt managed to make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. So it was pretty surprising to see a lot of these games come over to the Nintendo Switch and all that stuff. But one of the games that were announced last year that basically was in development was Doom Eternal, and we learned that when a Nintendo Switch version was going to happen. Originally, the game was supposed to come out last year, but Bethesda decided to delay the game into next year and all that stuff. But when they did that, though, it learned that the Switch version was going to have to come out a little bit later as they were focused on releasing the other versions and so forth though. And a lot of Nintendo fans kind of waited though, although the whole situation with COVID-19 really kind of threw a loop in a lot of things and all that stuff. And many believe that the game was canceled and all that. But Bethesda and Panic Button came out saying, no, the game is not canceled and all. But what really kind of brought interest, what got people's concern when it was reported that a physical version was canceled and all, although Bethesda downplayed that, saying that it's still coming, it's just the physical version wasn't coming. So finally, though, Doom Eternal has finally come to the Nintendo Switch and all. And while it may not be the version for everybody, you gotta give credit to Panic Button. I don't know what they did, but they managed to pull off what many think is impossible though. So why don't we get started with the pros and cons, and we'll start off first with the pros though. And the first one is, like I said earlier, this is a really good job of a port job to this game and all that stuff. I don't know what Panic Button did, but they managed to squeeze and put this game on the Nintendo Switch is simply amazing. Yes, compromises were made to make this game run on the Nintendo Switch, which I'll get to the con part and all that stuff, so there's no denying that. But the fact that we have a actual portable version of Doom Eternal outside of like using your smartphone, if you're using something like Xbox Game Pass or Stadia and all that stuff, but we have an actual portable Doom Eternal, and that is just simply amazing on so many levels. So next thing I want to talk about is the gameplay, and Like the first Doom Eternal, though, the game is a run and gun style gameplay. You just gotta keep moving and all that stuff, and that still holds well for the Nintendo Switch version. It may not be at 60 frames per second, it's at 30 frames per second, but it still maintains all that gunplay and all that run and gunning and all that stuff. Platforming like it was in the PS4, Xbox One, and the other versions. I did a review of the PS4 version a while back. Platforming can still be a little tricky. It doesn't make the game unplayable though, but some of the platforming can be difficult at times and does somewhat have a little bit of a learning curve though. But like I said, nothing unplayable or anything like that. Outside the platform part, it still has that run and gun gameplay that people, if you enjoyed like with the first Doom 2016, you'll like in Doom Eternal. And last but not least is the story. While I don't expect the story to be anywhere like on the level as what Hideki Kojima does with games like the Metal Gear series and all that, it still is an enjoyable story, even if it's over the top. As I said before in the past, I believe in a review I did with the PS4 version though, one of the things that Doom 2016 was lacking was a story and all that stuff. There was some notes here and there, but I really wish that they added a story back then because I wanted to see the lore and the world that they created for this version of Doom, and I'm glad that this is brought over into Doom Eternal. Some people like that approach in Doom 2016 and all this stuff, but me, I like to see a story, and even if it's like way out there and over the top. And don't get me wrong, Doom Eternal's story is way out there and over the top, but it still works nevertheless, and it is still enjoyable indeed. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the cons, so we'll take a little break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review of the Nintendo eShop release of Doom Eternal on the Nintendo Switch. As I mentioned before, the game's also available on the PS4, Xbox One, PC via Steam, and Google Stadia though. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we get started with the cons? And there are really 3 cons. One, that's kind of the excuse me, the elephant in the room one. This one seems to be pretty obvious. Excuse me. Oop. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it sound like it is, but it's definitely the elephant in the room though. So we'll start off with the first one, and this one is unfortunately one of the issues I had with the PS4 version, and that is the Bethesda.net thing. Unfortunately, this is one of those games where if you want to play it, you're going to have to sign up to Bethesda.net, which I think is just stupid and just utterly ridiculous and all that stuff. I understand if you want to offer it as an option and all, but to force you to sign up to play, force you to use Bethesda.net just to play Doom Eternal even as a single player game is utterly ridiculous. It's just as bad as what Ubisoft's doing, especially with Immortal Phoenix Rising, for crying out loud. So it's just ridiculous and all that stuff though. So I haven't tried it when going in offline or anything like that. But as far as when you have to play the game, you have to sign up for Bethesda.net, which, I mean, for crying out loud, the Doom 2016, you didn't have to sign up for Bethesda.net, so this is just stupid and all that stuff. So I think it's just utterly ridiculous. The next thing I want to talk about is the weapon wheel, which is basically very similar to what was in Doom 2016 and all, and while it works, I'm not a big fan of it or anything like that. I prefer the option of mapping your weapons to, say, like the D-pad, you know, like over here and all, like right here and all. I prefer that approach than using the weapon wheel. I'm not a big fan of the weapon wheel and all. I'm not saying it makes the game broken or unplayable. It's just not my cup of tea though. Like I said, I just prefer mapping it to like the D-pad and all, or the directional button to be exact. I prefer that approach instead. And last but not least, and this one is the most obvious one and all that stuff. Now I do want to say that no matter what, I still think Panic Button did a really, really good job porting this game over to the Nintendo Switch. Having said that though, there is no denying the fact that compromises were made to make this game run on the Nintendo Switch, and it obviously shows. You are getting a version that is running at 30 frames per second, though, compared to the 60 frames per second that the PS4, Xbox One, PC, and yes, even Google Stadia have. And the visuals have certainly been downgraded to compare to what the other versions are. So make no mistake, though, it's pretty obvious, like with Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein 2 New Colossus, there were serious compromise to basically make this game run onto the Nintendo Switch. Am I bothered by this, though? No, I'm certainly not, but I can understand why it may not be, why this version may not be for everyone, though. Overall, I have to say, Doom Eternal, I still think it's a good game, and to some degree a must-own, despite my issue I have with Bethesda.net, the whole sign-up and all that stuff. The gameplay is still as enjoyable as it was even when playing it on the PS4, though. The story is still enjoyable, and hats off to Panic Button for really bringing this game to the Nintendo Switch. I don't know how they were able to pull it off, but they did a really good job and all that stuff. Still, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the weapon wheel. I already gave you my issue I have with Bethesda.net, and make no mistake, there is no denying the fact that serious compromises were made just to make this game run properly on the Nintendo Switch, and it obviously shows, though, and that may not be for everyone out there. But for those who are for those who've been waiting for the Switch port of Doom Eternal, it's well worth the wait, though. Yes, it took a little bit longer. Some of it is also due to, work at home, the whole coronavirus situation, though, but it was definitely worth the wait. That said, much like with Doom, much like with Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, and much like with Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, I'm still going to put Doom Eternal under what I like to view the cautious recommendation category, though. It's still a game that I would recommend, but it also depends on how much you're willing to tolerate. If you like the idea of playing Doom at home and on the go, and are not bothered with it running at, I believe, 720p when in dock mode, 540p when in portable mode, and running at 30 frames per second, though, then I would recommend the Nintendo Switch version. If, however, portability is not really a big factor, or if basically you're looking for the best looking version of the game, or if you prefer the approach of either something like what Google Stadia does or Xbox Game Pass, then I would recommend, or basically you need that solid 60 frames per second, then I would say don't bother getting the Switch version and look someplace else, because the Switch version is, by compared to those versions, is obviously going to be viewed as the worst version, though. It's still an enjoyable game, but it's not going to be anywhere near what the PS4, Xbox One, PC via Steam or Stadia version is going to be, though. That said, if you're willing to accept the fact that you are playing it at 30 frames per second and don't mind the visuals being dropped down to 720p, 540p when undocked, though, then I would say get Doom Eternal then on the Nintendo Switch. Either way, Doom Eternal is a fun first-person shooter, though, and it's worth picking up regardless of what system you own, to be exact, though. But if the Switch is your main console of choice, though, then there's nothing wrong picking up the Nintendo Switch version of Doom Eternal. Okay, this concludes my video review of Doom Eternal for the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Doom Eternal finally being released on the Nintendo Switch? Do you think it was well worth the wait and all that stuff? Are you impressed of how Panic Button was able to pull this off on the Nintendo Switch? Is the Switch version worth getting, or do you think it's better to just stick with the PS4, the Xbox One, the PC via Steam, or the Google Stadia version and all? Did you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye. Bye!